It was 2:47 a.m., and the house was dead silent. Every creak of the floorboards sounded like a scream in the dark. I had been living alone for months, and I had gotten used to the quiet, or so I thought. Then it happened. A whisper. Soft, almost like someone breathing my name, drifting from somewhere just beyond my bedroom door. "Hey," it said. I froze. My heart was pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. I sat up, trying to convince myself it was just the wind, or maybe a dream. But the whisper came again, clearer this time. "I see you." I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight, shining it across my room. Shadows danced across the walls, but there was no one. Nothing. I checked the windows. Locked. Door? Locked. Every possible entry point, secure. My rational mind screamed, "There's no one here." But my instincts whispered something else, something darker. Then, a soft tap-tap-tap came from the hallway. I wasn't alone. I wanted to run. I wanted to scream. But I couldn't move. Something about the air had changed. It was heavier, colder, almost alive. I whispered to myself, trying to stay calm, "I'm imagining this, it's just my mind." And that's when I heard it again, right behind me, low and deliberate, "Don't turn around." I couldn't move. My hands were trembling, my phone shaking as I gripped it. The whisper had stopped, but now there was something else, a cold, heavy silence, like the air itself was watching me. Summoning every ounce of courage, I slowly swung my flashlight toward the hallway. The beam cut through the darkness, and I saw it. Nothing. Just shadows stretching along the walls, twisting unnaturally, as if they were alive. I blinked, thinking my eyes were playing tricks on me. But the soft whisper returned, louder this time, taunting, "I'm here." I backed toward my bedroom, my mind racing. My apartment was small, there was nowhere to hide. The tap-tap-tap came again, this time from the living room, and the air grew colder with each passing second. Then my phone rang. I froze. I hadn't given anyone my number except my closest friend, and it was 2:52 a.m. Hesitating, I answered. "Hello?" I whispered. Silence. Then, a breath, right in my ear. Heavy. Hot. And a voice, unmistakable, though distorted, almost playful, "I can see you." I dropped the phone. It clattered to the floor, screen shattered, yet the glow of the call lingered for a second, illuminating the hallway. And in that brief moment, I saw a figure, tall, thin, just at the edge of the light, before it vanished into the darkness. I ran to the living room, flipping every switch, desperate for normal light. Nothing. The room was empty. But the whispering didn't stop. It came from every corner, from inside the walls, from under the floor. Then, the sound of faint footsteps, behind me. Slow. Deliberate. I spun around. Nothing. Except, a shadow moving across the wall, independent of any light source. Panic set in. I needed help, someone to see this, to believe me. I grabbed my keys and rushed out the door, but the whisper followed me, through the walls, through the door, even as I stepped into the cold night. "You can't leave." The next day, I couldn't sleep. Every shadow, every creak of the floor felt alive. My friends thought I was overreacting, maybe I was. But deep down, I knew I wasn't imagining this. I decided to investigate the apartment, hoping to find a rational explanation. I checked the windows, the locks, even the walls. That's when I noticed something strange, a small, faded scratch near the baseboard in the hallway, too deliberate to be random. I knelt down, shining my flashlight on it. The scratch formed a symbol, twisted and jagged, almost like letters but unfamiliar. My heart skipped a beat. I didn't recognize it, but something about it felt ancient. I remembered the whispers, calling my name, taunting me. Could this symbol be connected? I took a picture and sent it to an online forum about paranormal activity. While I waited for replies, the apartment grew colder. That night, the whispers returned, louder than ever. Not just from the hallway, this time, they came from inside my bedroom walls. You shouldn't be here, leave, or join us. I tried to follow the sound, tapping the walls, listening for hollow spots. That's when I found it, a loose panel behind the living room couch. My hands shook as I pried it open. Inside, nothing at first. Just darkness. But then, I saw a small, dust-covered journal tucked in a corner. I pulled it out, flipping through brittle pages filled with scrawled writing, symbols, and warnings. One page made my blood run cold. The whisper knows your fear. It feeds on it. Once it calls your name, you belong to it forever. A chill ran down my spine. That's when I realized, the whisper wasn't just random. It had been here long before me, waiting, watching, feeding. Suddenly, a whisper right behind me made me jump. You found my secret. I spun around. Nothing. But now, the apartment felt different, thicker, heavier, almost alive. And I knew one terrifying truth: I was no longer safe in my own home. That night, I barely slept. The journal was open on my desk, the strange symbols staring at me like they were alive. Every creak of the floor, every sigh of the wind, made my heart race. At exactly 3:13 a.m., I woke to the whisper again, this time, all around me. I'm right here, closer, closer. I felt it before I saw it, a cold pressure on my chest, as if something invisible was pushing me down. My flashlight flickered, and shadows stretched and twisted into shapes I couldn't comprehend. Then I heard footsteps. Not soft ones, heavy, dragging, deliberate. They circled my room. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. The shadows began moving independently, forming a figure, a tall, thin silhouette with glowing eyes. My instinct screamed at me to run, but my legs refused to obey. It was as if the darkness itself had me trapped. The whispers became voices, almost human, almost pleading. You can't escape, join us. I stumbled toward the door, but it slammed shut on its own. I was trapped, the room now colder than ice. Then, a soft touch on my shoulder, like fingers brushing my skin, made me spin around. Nothing. Then I noticed the walls. They were moving, pulsating slightly, like the apartment itself was alive. The whispers were coming from everywhere, the floorboards, the ceiling, even the walls themselves. In a desperate attempt to protect myself, I grabbed the journal and shouted the words scrawled inside: I refuse you. You have no power over me. For a moment, everything stopped. The whispers vanished. The shadows froze. Silence returned, heavy and thick, but I knew it was temporary. And then I heard it, soft, mocking, from right behind me: you can't run forever. I could no longer tell day from night. Sleep had abandoned me, and every creak, every whisper, made my skin crawl. I knew I couldn't stay in the apartment, but somehow, it wouldn't let me go. I returned to the journal, desperate for answers. One final passage caught my eye: the whisper is not outside, it is inside you. Once it finds fear, it makes its home. You hear it, you feel it, but you cannot escape yourself. A chill ran through me. Could it be me? Was I the reason the whisper existed here? Suddenly, the shadows around me thickened, forming a grotesque mirror of my own body, twisted and dark, with eyes that gleamed with malice. The whisper became my own voice, distorted and cruel: you invited me in, you belong to me. I backed into the corner, clutching the journal, trying to resist. My reflection in the cracked mirror no longer matched my movements. It moved on its own, smirking, whispering secrets I had never told anyone. Panic surged. I screamed, but the sound echoed back, distorted, mocking me. The entity lunged, not physically, but somehow, mentally. It invaded my thoughts, my memories, twisting them into fear. I realized then that running or locking doors wouldn't help. The only way to survive was to face it. I focused all my strength, all my willpower, and shouted the words from the journal, "I am mine. You have no power over me." For a heartbeat, the apartment went completely silent. Then, slowly, the shadows dissolved, the air warmed, and the whispers faded. I collapsed to the floor, exhausted, gasping. The journal lay beside me, closed. The apartment was quiet, eerily quiet. But deep down, I knew the truth, the whisper had been inside me all along. And though it was quiet now, it was never truly gone. Weeks had passed since that night. The apartment looked normal again. Sunlight streamed through the windows, the air smelled clean, and no shadows twisted unnaturally on the walls. I tried to convince myself it was over. Maybe it really was. Maybe the whispers had left. But the truth was, I could feel it. A subtle pressure, like a weight on my chest whenever I was alone. The apartment was silent, yes, but not empty. One evening, as I unpacked a box of old belongings, I heard it again, soft, almost playful, barely audible. "I see you." My hands froze. I spun around. Nothing. Just my familiar walls, my familiar furniture. Yet I knew it was there, watching, waiting. I realized that the whisper didn't need to be loud to be terrifying. It was patient. It was cunning. It had learned how to live inside fear, feeding silently, invisibly. Sometimes at night, I wake up, and I swear I hear my own name whispered. Not from the walls, not from the floorboards, but from inside my own mind. I never tell anyone about it. They wouldn't understand. They would call me crazy. But I know the truth, the whisper is never gone. It just waits, and it will always be listening.